What's up everybody? As you can probably tell from the title, I'm going to quickly walk you through everything that they changed or added with Lightfall. All of this information is provided by the official Lightfall update patch notes. Don't worry about hurting your brain reading it yourself because it's pretty girthy, so sit back and let's get started. Alright, Destiny 2 update 7.0.0.1. For activities in the Crucible, added an exotic armor swap penalty applied to Trials of Osiris and competitive division. Equipping a different piece of exotic armor drains all ability energy in these modes. So now you cannot just swap on or off exotics mid-game in Trials or comp, you get penalized. Competitive division fixed a bug that causes the competitive intro quest to auto-claim the completion reward. Rewards are now claimed upon interacting with shacks. Competitive Rift and Showdown have reduced revive delay time to 1.5 seconds from 2 seconds, reduced respawn time to 5.5 seconds from 7 seconds. Vanguard Ops fixed an issue in Highest Battlegrounds Europa where a heavy ammo crate could respawn for players who get quarantined into the boss fight arena. When you play Vanguard Ops or Nightfall, your final score determines a reputation multiplier for that activity's completion. Multipliers run from 1.0 under 30k points to 7.0 above 250,000. We also tuned the amount of Vanguard rank you receive for completions, Nightfall quality, and streaks. Full pass on all Vanguard map and mode multipliers with an eye toward balancing score per hour rather than score per attempt. Vanguard and Nightfall strikes added on-screen health bars for bosses previously missing them. Fixed an issue where players could be given the same objective twice in quick succession in the Devil Layers strike. The Vanguard Ops playlist has increased in difficulty. Players can no longer level beyond the enemy combatants. Additional rotating modifiers have been added to the Vanguard Ops playlist. Hero, Legend, and Master difficulties have been reworked for greater challenge and to accommodate new modifiers. Adept difficulty has been removed. Hero activity level is now soft cap plus 20, Legend is power cap plus 30, and Master is power cap plus 40. Each has a scaling combat delta that keeps you under level in the activities and provides a smoother pathway to Grandmaster. Most Hero, Legend, Master, Grandmaster activities now feature the ability to use overcharged weapons for increased damage. Which weapons are overcharged are determined by the seasonal artifacts unlocks and activity modifiers. Elemental singes and burns have been replaced and broken out into incoming and outgoing components, threats, and surges. Damage bonuses for surges and overcharges do not stack. Raids and dungeons. Armor pieces from Master difficulty, Grasp of Avarice, Duality, Spire of the Watcher drop with higher stats. All this UI stuff on screen I will allow you guys to view if you so desire. It is also on the BungieNet website. So feel free to pause at any of these points if you care about UI changes. Some people do, especially in Crucible. Alright, gameplay and investment. This is where the meat and potatoes begins. Armor energy has been deprecated. Armor now has untyped armor energy, and all mods use that untyped energy when socketed. Armor mods that were previously based on weapon archetype are now based on weapon damage type. Most armor mods that are based on weapon damage type also have a harmonic version, which is discounted when the weapon's damage type matches your subclass damage type. Armor mod costs have been generally reduced across the board. The combat style mod socket has been deprecated and replaced on all armor pieces with an extra socket for mods associated with that armor slot. The Charge with Light and Elemental Wells armor slots have been merged into a single system, Armor Charge. Players using the Armor Charge system can gain up to 3 stacks of Armor Charge at a time, expanded up to 6 stacks by equipping charged up mods. Picking up an Orb of Power grants 1 stack of Armor Charge. Many mods that previously created Elemental Wells or granted stacks of Charge with Light directly have been modified to instead spawn Orbs of Power. Mods that provided an ongoing benefit such as Font of Wisdom now grant that benefit as long as you have stacks of Armor Charge. These mods cause Armor Charge stacks to decay every 10 seconds. Some redundant mods have been deprecated when their effect would overlap with existing mods' effects. Some armor mods such as Kickstart mods and most mods triggered by using a finisher now make use of the Armor Charge system. Some of the functionality of Elemental Wells and their associated mods have been moved into subclass Fragments and the new Fire Sprite and Void Breach. Warmind cells have been deprecated. Rest in peace. Seasonal Artifact. Unlocking a perk in the Seasonal Artifact now grants that perk directly to your character when it's relevant. You no longer need to socket an armor mod to gain an artifact's perk effect. Wow. Column 2 of the artifact now unlocks multiple discounted mods per node. The maximum number of unlocked perks has been reduced to 12. Resetting your selections and the seasonal artifact is now free. Remove the 1-second button hold to unlock an artifact perk. A single button press now unlocks the perk. Artifice armor has had its bonus socket converted into a socket that allows you to increase any one stat on that armor piece by 3. Adjusted the amount of damage reduction provided by the resilience stat in PvE. At tier 10 damage, reduction now caps at 30%, down from 40% in season 19. And the progression of the damage reduction across tiers has been smoothed to give more relative value to lower tiers of resilience. The armor mods granting resilience have had their armor energy costs increased to 4 for 10 resilience and 2 for 5 resilience. The Iron Lord's Pride perk has been added to all Iron Banner armor sets from season 8 to present. Exotic armor changes. Oh snap, this is where it gets juicier than the meat and potatoes. So for exotic armor changes, Khepri Sting. True Sight is now granted when damaging an enemy with a smoke bomb. I haven't even read the rest and that is already huge. Additionally, when you have an undetonated smoke bomb on the battlefield and have not been made invisible by a smoke bomb, you gain significantly increased melee energy generation. Ooh, that is good. And I think it was needed because Khepri Sting did not work how it used to prior to Void 3.0 release. So that was a buff that needed to be had. Art of Inmost Light reduced duration of the empowered ability buffs in PvE to 5 seconds, down from 10 seconds. Reduced bonus class ability regeneration while empowered to plus 25% per stack in both PvE and PvP, down from 150 and 38 respectively. This change is intended to decrease how easy it is to get and maintain 2x empowerment bonus in PvE, as well as reduce the total amount of bonus ability energy provided. The goal is for Heart of Inmost Light to remain strong in ability focused builds while giving room for other exotics to shine as well. The Bombardiers now cause targets damaged by its explosive to become severed when used by a Strand Hunter. Chromatic Fire has been updated to work with Strand. Mantle of Battle Harmony has been updated to work with Strand. Verity's Brow has been updated to work with Strand. Felwinter's Helm triggers weaken burst off Strand melees. Claws of Ahamkara will not provide an additional melee charge when equipped to a Strand subclass. Armor that supports coloration and appearance change based on your currently selected subclass has been updated to support Strand. This includes the following: 2020 through 2022 Solstice sets, Antaeus wards and ornaments, no backup plans and ornaments. Weapons. Crafting changes. Resonant elements have been removed. Crafting components costs have been replaced with standard currency such as glimmer and enhancement cores. Deep sights have been removed on existing weapons that do not have a pattern available to unlock. The Deep Sight's attunement objective has been removed, and you can immediately extract or dismantle the weapon to obtain the pattern progress. They did some crafting bug fixes. And then for linear fusion rifles, reduced damage versus champions, mini bosses, bosses, and vehicles by 15%, so a nerf, but Sleeper Simulant and the Queenbreaker bow are unaffected. Machine guns increase the damage by 10%, increase reserve ammo by 50% at 0 inventory stat and 20 at 100 inventory stat. Heavy grenade launchers increase damage versus champions, mini bosses, bosses, and vehicles by 20%, miners by 40%. Improved projectile collision, making it slightly easier to land hits. Increase blast radius by 1 meter. Parasite is unaffected. So heavy grenade launchers got that buff. Shotgun reticles now change in size proportional to spread angle. Related note, the Legend of Acreus hipfire reticle is now a bit more representative of its very large spread angle. Kinetic special weapon damage multipliers against unshielded combatants increase from 1.05 to 1.15. Kinetic slot stasis weapons no longer have the 5% damage bonus versus unshielded targets in PvE. Exotics, the Queenbreaker bow now uses Arc 3.0 blind. The shot now chains to multiple nearby enemies. Ruinous Effigy, the Transmutation Sphere slam attack now suppresses. For the Leviathan's Breath now applies volatile on perfect draw impact. Increased damage from 396 to 442. This allows it to once again one hit kill all supers in PvP. Increase the damage versus champions by 30%. 1000 voices, each explosion now applies 10 plus 5 with Ember of Ashes scorch stacks. Sunshot, explosion on kill now applies 10 plus 5 scorch stacks. Polaris Lance, perfect 5th shots now apply 40 plus 20 scorch stacks instead of the custom burn. Two-tailed Fox, Solar Rocket now applies 60 plus 30 scorch stacks instead of burn. Prometheus Lens added the incandescent perk to the catalyst. Grand Overture switched the catalyst to use arc blind. The Mana Core added a hipfire reticle element to show current stacks of anti-grav repulsor. Tractor Cannon fixed a crash when Tractor Cannon was fired at large groups of stasis crystals. The Fourth Horseman fixed an issue where this weapon had received an unintended 20% damage nerf. Thunderlord fixed an issue where this weapon's lightning strikes could disrupt you or your teammates. Perks. These perks have been updated to work with Strand, Osmosis, Golden Tricorn, Elemental Capacitor, which now grants plus 20 airborne effectiveness, plus 25 for the enhanced perk. Rewind rounds, rebuilt to work on non-Vault of Glass weapons. Eager Edge no longer deactivates when moving faster than 35 meters per second, deactivates correctly after a single melee swing, reduce the base lunge distance buff from 2 to 1.8, reduce the airborne lunge distance penalty from 25 to 20%. The enhanced perk now increases lunge distance slightly back up to 2. Blinding Grenades renamed to Disorienting Grenades. Vice Stinger. This was typically a full reload when the perk activated and now reloads 25% of the magazine. Zen Moment now also reduces incoming flinch. The perk has been branched so that shots from different archetypes ramp up the effect more quickly. 1 times for submachine guns, auto rifles, and machine guns, 1.5 times for pulse rifles and sidearms, 2 times for hand cannons and scout rifles. Danger Zone updated the description to include that while active, the perk also reduces self-damage from the weapon. Wellspring fixed an issue where this perk was not rewarding the correct amount of energy, now works with abilities that have multiple charges. For abilities with multiple charges, once the ability has 1 full charge, it is considered charged and will divert excess energy into the other abilities while giving the charged ability the least amount. The fix for the enhanced version of this trait is coming in a future patch. Cascade Point no longer triggers off of non-precision damage against weakened targets. Abilities rescale the efficacy of Discipline, Strength, and each class ability stat on Grenade, Melee, and class ability regeneration rates. In general, tier 10 stat is roughly equivalent to tier 8 in the previous system. Each increase in tier now provides a more consistent benefit to the ability's cooldown reduction rather than spiking heavily at low tiers. Hunters, Supers, Arc Staff increase the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Same goes for Golden Gun Marksman. Same goes for Golden Gun Deadshot. Same goes for Spectral Blades. Spectral Blades has reduced base cooldown time from 10 minutes and 25 seconds to 9 minutes and 16 seconds. Gathering Storm decreased the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 7 to 5. Same goes for Silence and Squall. Same goes for Blade Barrage. And for class abilities, Marksman's Dodge reduced base cooldown time from 34 seconds to 29 seconds, and Gambler's Dodge reduced base cooldown time from 46 seconds to 38 seconds. Weighted Throwing Knife increased base cooldown time from 109 seconds to 137 seconds. Lightweight Knife increased base cooldown time from 90 seconds to 100 seconds. And for Proximity Explosive Knife increased base cooldown time from 100 seconds to 111 seconds. Withering Blade reduced base cooldown time from 113 seconds to 100 seconds. Titan Supers Fist of Havoc increased the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Increased PvE damage by 20%. Glacial Quake increased the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Hammer of Soul increased the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Reduced the base cooldown times from 10 minutes and 25 seconds to 9 minutes and 16 seconds. Burning Maul increased the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Same goes to Sentinel Shield. Thunder Crash decreased the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 7 to 5, reduced maximum flight time from 5 seconds to 4.5 seconds, reduced size of the damaging volume around the player and pushed it further forward in front of the player to make drive-by disintegrations more intentional, reduced detonation size versus players by approximately 20%, unchanged versus PvE combatants. Downward vertical influence now begins earlier in flight. Ward of Dawn, ward maximum health reduced from 13,500 to 8,000. Rescaled PvE combatant damage versus the ward to compensate. In general, Ward of Dawn's effective HP against PvE combatants should not meaningfully change. Standardize the damage dealt by each type of kinetic and energy weapon against the ward. Previously, energy weapons did 2.5 times damage to Ward of Dawn and kinetic weapons did 1 times damage. Now, regardless of damage type, weapons do 1.5 times damage to the ward. Armor of Light has been updated to reduce its potency in PvP, so maximum health reduced from 425 to 300. Now inherits Void Overshield's 50% PvE damage resistance to compensate. No longer negates precision damage. Melees, we have Ballistic Slam, now suppresses the attacking player's base melee for 0.9 seconds after landing, so a follow-up melee cannot be performed until the player returns to first person. Increased base cooldown time from 90 seconds to 114 seconds. Shield Bash increased base cooldown time from 90 seconds to 114 seconds. Seismic Strike increased base cooldown time from 90 seconds to 101 seconds. Hammer Strike increased base cooldown time from 90 seconds to 101 seconds. Shield Toss reduced the base cooldown time from 100 seconds to 91 seconds. Aspects Knockout, reduce basic melee damage bonus versus players from 60 to 50%, reduce full body melee damage bonus versus players from 25 to 20%. Warlocks, supers, storm trance, increase the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 5 to 7. Same goes to Nova Warp, same goes to Winter Wrath, same goes to Daybreak, but in addition to that, the throw cost is reduced from 10% to 6.5% per swing. Increase damage versus PvE combatants by 25%, reduce base cooldown time from 10 minutes and 25 seconds to 9 minutes and 16 seconds. Chaos Reach, decrease the maximum number of orbs that can be created via defeating targets from 7 to 5. Same goes for Nova Bomb. And then for class abilities in Phoenix Dive, we have reduced base cooldown time from 82 seconds to 55 seconds. While Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive's cooldown is significantly reduced, allowing for rapid reactivations. While Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive's detonation damage increased from 40 to 80, min to max, to 100 to 220. Restoration duration, when activated while Heat Rises is active, increased from 1 second to 3 seconds. Melees, Celestial Fire, increased base cooldown time from 100 seconds to 112 seconds. Incinerator Snap, reduced base cooldown time from 90 seconds to 83 seconds. Penumbral Blast, reduced base cooldown time from 114 seconds to 101 seconds. For aspects, Heat Rises, split the airborne effectiveness bonus previously granted by consuming your grenade between a passive and active benefit. Previously granted 70 airborne effectiveness when Heat Rises was active after consuming a grenade, now grants 20 airborne effectiveness passively while Heat Rises is equipped, and an additional 50 airborne effectiveness while Heat Rises is active, for the same total of 70 airborne effectiveness. For grenades, we have Arc. Lightning grenades increase base cooldown from 121 seconds to 152, increase PvE damage by 20%. For storm grenades, increase base cooldown time from 105 to 121 seconds. For flux grenades, we have reduced base cooldown time from 182 seconds to 152 seconds. For pulse grenades, we have increased PvE damage by 20%. For solar grenades, we have healing, increased base cooldown time from 82 seconds to 91 seconds. For trip mine grenades, increased base cooldown time from 91 seconds to 121 seconds. For solar grenades, increased base cooldown time from 121 seconds to 152 seconds. Increased PvE damage by 20%. For thermite grenades, increased base cooldown time from 105 seconds to 121 seconds. Increased PvE damage by 20%. Incendiary grenades, reduced base cooldown time from 121 seconds to 105 seconds. Void Spike Grenade, increased base cooldown time from 91 seconds to 121 seconds, increased PvE damage by 20%. Void Wall Grenade, increased base cooldown time from 105 seconds to 152 seconds, increased PvE damage by 20%. Vortex Grenade, increased base cooldown time from 121 seconds to 152 seconds, increased PvE damage by 20%. Magnetic Grenade, reduced base cooldown time from 121 seconds to 105 seconds. Scatter Grenade, reduced base cooldown time from 121 seconds to 105 seconds. For Stasis, Dustfield Grenade, increased base cooldown time from 64 seconds to 91 seconds. Added new elemental pickups to the Void and Solar subclasses. Void Breaches are created by a selection of new and existing Void Fragments and grant class ability energy on pickup. Fire Sprites are created by a suite of new and existing Solar Fragments and grant grenade energy on pickup. For Fragments, Spark of Resistance, increase the nearby enemy count requirement for activation from 2 to 3. Reduced linger time after you're no longer surrounded from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. Spark of Instinct, this is new. When critically wounded, taking damage from nearby enemies emits a burst of damaging arc energy that jolts targets. Spark of Haste, also new. You have greatly increased resilience, recovery, and mobility while sprinting. Ember of Tempering now creates a fire sprite on solar weapon kills while active, in addition to its original effects. Ember of Combustion now creates a fire sprite on solar super defeats, in addition to its original effects. Ember of Searing now creates a fire sprite when defeating scorched targets, in addition to its original effects. Ember of Mercy, this is new. When you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain restoration. Picking up a solar flare grants restoration. Ember of Resolve, also new. Solar grenade final blows heal you. Void, Echo of Domineering. Echo of Domineering now creates a Void Breach when defeating suppressed targets, in addition to its original effects. Echo of Harvest now creates a Void Breach when defeating weakened targets with precision damage, in addition to its original effects. Echo of Starvation now grants Devour on picking up a Void Breach, in addition to its original effects. Now allows Orb of Power pickup with full super energy. Echo of Cessation, also new. Finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby enemies to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets creates a Void Breach. Echo of Vigilance, also new. Defeating a target when your shields are depleted grants you a temporary void overshield. Subclass keywords: Arc, Jolt. Jolt lightning damage now stuns overload champions. Blind, blinding unstoppable champions now stuns them. For solar, we have Radiant. While Radiant, your weapons now also pierce barrier champion shields and stuns them. Note, weapons that already have an existing anti-champion behavior, i.e. an artifact mod, an intrinsic anti-champion capability, or the ability to apply another subclass keyword that stuns a champion type, will not be granted the anti-barrier behavior from being Radiant. Ignition. Ignition damage now stuns unstoppable champions. For Void, volatile rounds. While you have volatile rounds, your Void weapons now also pierce barrier champion shields and stuns them. Note, weapons that already have an existing anti-champion behavior will not be granted the anti-barrier behavior from volatile rounds. Suppression. Suppressing overload champions now stuns them. Stasis slow. Slowing overload champions now stuns them. For Shatter. Shatter damage now stuns unstoppable champions. Combatants. Champions now correctly stun even when they're playing another animation such as a spawn in. Champion stun time is now consistent across all champions. This used to be dependent on the animation length, leading to slightly different times between combatants. Champions can now be stunned with various elemental verbs. Barrier champions are weak to shots from a player with solar, radiant buff, void volatile rounds, strand unraveling rounds. Overload champions are weak to arc jolt, void suppression, stasis slow. Unstoppable champions are weak to arc blind, solar ignition, stasis shatter, strand suspend. For finishers, all subclass agnostic finishers now support strand coloration when using a strand subclass. Updated the VFX for stasis finishers to fix a coloration issue. Emotes. The Ghost Fist Bump exotic emote now supports strand coloration when using a strand subclass. Power and progression. Weekly powerful rewards have been removed from Throne World and added to Neomuna. Seasonal updates. Engrams, energy focusing chests, and keys. Umbral engrams are no longer used to focus seasonal weapons and armor and will no longer drop from the game. As a result, there will no longer be seasonal umbral energy. Seasonal engrams are a new type of engram. You can visit the seasonal vendor to open them, or you can spend multiple seasonal engrams to focus into specific weapons or armor. Seasonal focusing is now a separate screen and can be accessed at the vendor by pressing the button next to upgrades. If you focused Crucible engrams in Season 19 at Shaxx, you'll be familiar with this system. Seasonal engrams are stored at the vendor and do not require inventory space. There is a wallet item you can acquire by visiting the seasonal vendor. Hovering over this item in your inventory will show you how many engrams you have for each vendor. If you delete this item, you can reacquire it from the vendor. Owners of a season will now periodically be rewarded with a seasonal engram and or seasonal key upon completing activities throughout the game. These are known as Defiant engrams and Defiant keys for Season of the Defiance. Playlist versions of the seasonal battlegrounds have one chest at the end of the activity. If you do not have a seasonal key when you open the chest, you will receive a seasonal weapon or armor. If you do have a seasonal key, it will be consumed and you will receive the following: either a seasonal weapon with deep sight resonance that you have not completed the crafting pattern for, or a high stat piece of seasonal armor, and a seasonal engram. Make sure you open the chest at the end of the activity. Whirlpool weapons and armor no longer drop at the end of the playlist version of seasonal activities. Direct launch versions of the seasonal battlegrounds will not have chests and instead award whirlpool weapons and armor. Platforms and systems. PC platforms added support and in-game settings to toggle NVIDIA Reflex, fixed various minor QoL issues regarding the controller settings menus on PC. Collision damage is no longer lethal against Guardians. Ghost projections that change color based on your subclass now support strand coloration when using a strand subclass. Localization. Players now have access to full Mandarin audio localization across all new Lightfall content. The accompanying season and core game modes covering Crucible, Gambit, and Strikes. iCore for German has been recast. I hope you guys appreciate this. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. We have new content coming out for Lightfall all season long. Keep an eye out. And until then, peace out.
Yo, what the hell? Oh my god. Yo, doubles fucked up that whole time. I like that, like we just have not stopped eating the fuck out of each other. Our shotguns and those.
It's so lag.
Oh.
What the